Welcome to Tuesday at 7. We are here with Helen B. That's how I know you, but B is not your last name.
Helen Bednarz is my last name. Right? Yeah.
And we appreciate you guys joining us this week as well. We are, to date stamp, this is February 2025. It's crazy. Right?
I know.
You can blink your eyes and time flies right on by.
It sure does.
And there's going to be people who are going to be watching this, and they're going to be watching it like 10 years from now. And they'll go, oh, that was from 2025.
So long ago.
But the reason why I thought it was apropos to connect with Helen is because you were reading from your poetry book, Night Walks, just last week.
Yes, at Max Backs.
Over at Max Backs. And I'm like, let's talk about that. But this is not just the only thing that you do. You do stuff all over the creative world. And that is, I know you dance.
Yes.
And it's Tuesday night
Tuesday night's normally my dance night. So, I will be heading up to dance right from here.
And you're down in the same building, like the Asian Town building?
Yes.
Same as the
Viva
Negative
Dance
Space.
Studio. Yeah, right by Negative Space. Yeah. God, he's awesome. We love running into him.
Gosh, God, he's wonderful. Dance, painting, writing, journaling, like all the above.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And we appreciate you joining us today. We appreciate you guys joining here as well. What we're doing here is we're going to do maybe a quick 30 minutes. So we're going to kind of press the gas and go. And we encourage you to participate live as well. And if this is a recorded session, feel free to just throw a question or a comment right in the comment area, and we'll get back to that. And we appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, thanks for coming over.
Let's do a quick, because it's been a few weeks since we've done some giveaways, and we have several giveaways this week. And so, if you were with us last week, we sat down and talked with Taylor Bash. There were thousands of people who are part of that. And Taylor is young. She does a lot of those, like paint, sipping paints, grabs communities together, and she is a ball of energy.
So positive, too.
Isn't she? Yeah. But for everybody, we had two cameras going live at the same time. And but if you shared that video last week, your name is in this hat. And we have a painting by Taylor. So you want to just go ahead and pick one of these, pick the winner?
All right.
This is the Taylor Bash winner.
We've got Jane O'Connor. Congratulations, Jane.
And I graduated high school together. And Jane's daughter is a private student of Taylor's.
Oh my goodness, how great.
All right. And then if you were also just the Friday before, the reason why we didn't pick last week, if you were with us the Friday before, we sat down with Ron George, and he is the director kind of in charge of 21 Days of Horror. 21 Days of Horror is a horror competition that starts on April 1st. But if you shared that video and then your name is in here, we're going to pick out two winners. And if your name is drawn, you get a pair of tickets. So two winners. You get a pair of tickets to the premieres.
Ready?
Yeah.
We've got Mags Amore.
Mags! Oh, that'd be perfect, because she does some acting, and she also does some special effects.
Ooh. So she'll understand all the stuff that's going on. All right. And then we got Brandon Gangan.
Yeah. Oh. Brandon.
Congratulations.
And Mags, thank you so much for the shares. These guys are sharing all the time. And last but not least, three hats here.
That's a fancy one.
This is a real magician's hat. This is for everybody who shared the content on the shoe show. If your name is in here, we're not giving you anything. We're going to get something from you. And that's going to be a pair of your most worn shoes. And those shoes are going to be handed off to an artist within this next year. And your shoes will be immortalized in a piece of artwork.
That is so cool.
Next year. And so this one's a kind of a unique giveaway.
And
thank you for sharing. There's so many.
We have Claire
Wang. Claire, thank you so much. We appreciate your sharing. I'm going to hand this to Beth. Beth is also back there to keep an eye on comments, take your questions so you guys can participate live. But what we want to do is we want to encourage you. At the very bottom left-hand side of your screen, there's an arrow, and that arrow button is a share button. You may have shared before, and if you haven't, when you press that button, Facebook will guide you to the next steps. It'll say, who do you want to share it to? You can share it to a friend, you can share it to your friends list, or you could share it to a group. But when you share, we know that you're doing so. And then next week, we're going to draw a winner, and that winner is going to get a copy of Helen's first poetry book.
First of many.
Right? And you're gonna sign this, right?
Woo!
I don't know. You want to use
we're gonna use a little bit of each. Show you the front cover or the inside?
Yeah, I don't know. Inside's nice.
Mm-hmm.
While Helen is signing this, there's a few things that I've noticed just watching her content, and that sometimes feels just like she's a creative person. That's why we listed her as the creative Helen B. And I've noticed that sometimes you just press the record button and you just record things.
Yes.
And I think it's very evident to, well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, guys, if you share, you get a signed book. And you saw it right here.
It's real.
It's real. And I'm gonna take a quick detour here. One of the things that we share in common, and Beth shares in common, is we've all been pretentious posers.
Yes.
Down of the pretentious portrait artist. And who was this?
Philip Evans gave me permission to use his artwork on the back cover for my author drawing, author photo. Fantastic group.
Yeah, and if you guys have a bucket list, if you're kind of in the creative space in Cleveland, posing for the pretentious Cleveland portrait artists should be on your bucket list, because those guys, it's a great group. One of the things that I've known just by kind of watching your content is kind of have this general just kind of creativeness. You're like, I'm going to record and I'm just going to post it. However perfect or imperfect it is, you record it, and I like that.
Thank you.
I like that.
You know, part of where that comes from is in 2020, I had a series of concussions, just like little dumb accidents, and I had other ones before that. And my memory got the way I refer to it is like Swiss cheese, where there's just periods where it was just like spotty, and boy, is that devastating. And so I started recording more, like just little dumb things, and because then I have them, and I look back. I mean, sometimes even my kids go to sleep, and then I get out my phone and I watch whatever little videos we took that day or pictures we took that day, and just and that savoring, I don't know, it helped, because there's a lot of grief when you have like a brain injury and you see like just memories you don't really have that normally you would have remembered. And it made the capturing of those things even more precious. So yeah, that's where a lot of that comes from.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. That you're doing it as well as kind of a video photo book.
They're my scrapbooks. I love
scrapbook.
It maybe sounds bad, but I love social media, because I look back at it. I used to scrapbook physically, and that's just cumbersome, but like I'll go online and look at my own stuff and just kind of savor the memories that are there.
Yeah. So. You had spoke that this is your first book, but this is not your first writing. You have been writing, journaling for quite a bit, right? So if we talk about kind of going back and looking at memories, right? You've been journaling for quite some time. You teach at Tri-C. You teach writing at Tri-C as well. So take us back to kind of the origins of the writing and such.
So I actually brought my very first journal, which has some lovely kittens on it. And I was gifted this book when I was 9 years old and started journaling. And I have been journaling ever since. So I've got, I think I'm up to 97 filled books of my just writing. And so earlier this year, I organized them all, put them in chronological order, and started a chronological read through. So I'm in freshman year of high school right now. Boy, is that fun, and maybe a little bit cringy sometimes. But yeah, so it's been a lot of writing, and it's been very fun getting to know younger me.
The process,
Mhm.
whether a 9-year-old or a freshman in high school, or maybe journaling, writing, has it changed much, or is the ritual of spilling on paper, or and I don't know what your habit is. Is it to process? Is it to get up with a cup of coffee and journal?
All of the above.
All of the above.
All of the above. So, I'm a big fan. If you haven't read The Artist's Way, there's a practice in The Artist's Way with the morning pages.
Morning,
and it's like
morning journal, yeah.
Yeah, like within the first 20 minutes of waking, when your filter is thin, to write just nonstop and fill 3 pages. And so sometimes I do that, not every single day, but that's so fruitful because, again, even, when the memory was better, it was like by the time that 20 minutes is passed, you like block out some of your most vulnerable thoughts, and you could go back later in the day and read something from the morning and be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that, how cool that I said that, or I made this connection. So some of it's that, some of it's, just today I saw Robert Gatewood, who's really active over in like the Waterloo area. He posted a question on Facebook, just like hey, ponder this. Like, what would you say to your mother if she was, if you could talk to her from before you were born? And I was like, oh my gosh, like what a cool thing so I'll gather inspiration from around anywhere. Right. And so that'll be a journal prompt later tonight or tomorrow morning. But even in this, like just observations, I took notes on the neighborhood kids and my siblings and like what everyone was good at and what they liked and what they didn't like. Just, I don't know. I just liked so I could know how to connect with them better, I guess. And even in 8th grade, like I brought my first self-help book and it had a little personality quiz sort of thing in it. And I was like giving it to my friends and then taking notes like, okay, this person likes it if you are really direct, or like this person likes this. And then I was like, okay, be a better friend to my friends this way. So there's some of that in these journals too.
Yeah.
It's cool.
And for those who don't know, I didn't know that until recently, is you're like, on the wellness space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a mental health coach. So I work with kids, I work with couples, I work with individuals, and this is my office. So yeah.
It's cozy. We brought in an extra light just because we're going, but like,
yeah,
it feels zen from the time we walked in the front door until the time we sat down here. So you were maybe meant to be a listener and a journaler and a writer from the very early age. Mm-hmm. Is there anything in here that you're like, there was a couple things here that I look back and, I'm not talking like, seeds that have continued. Was there anything that you look back and you're like, man, that was profound from that 9-year, or that is something that I've used as an affirmation over the years that I still use in my adult years? Anything like that you discovered in this first journal?
There's some funny stuff, but let's see. There's one so I got this for my birthday, which is in May. And at New Year's Eve, actually, I had taken notes on the neighborhood kids already, and I had left myself out. So I decided I should introduce myself to myself, which I'm glad I did because it's pretty funny. But would you like to hear it?
Yeah, please.
Oh my goodness. So I said, hi. I should have done this at the beginning of my diary, which later I have a whole thing about, is this diary or a journal? That's another flag. But since I didn't, I'll do it now. I'm Helen Bednarz. Brothers, 2. Sorry, my youngest brother, you were not born yet. Sisters, 1. And then I list my siblings' names and my friends' names from the neighborhood. Likes or hobbies: reading, arts, crafts, spying, doing goofball stuff, singing, dancing, dressing up and stuff like putting on makeup. And I said, I'm kind of soft, and then I crossed it out and wrote, I'm sensitive, very good at defense, art, singing, spying, and very understanding. P.S. I am 9.5 and have a pen pal. And I am happy to report that I am much older than 9.5 now, and I still have a pen pal, but it's a different one. But we've been pen pals for 17 years. Mhm.
That we don't know each other well, but from going through, that Rick Rubin
Mhm.
book and just kind of watching your content, that might be, you could probably use that first entry as like a biography,
I couldn't believe when I wrote
or
it.
a biographical description of what you're doing, because it probably is as relevant today as it was back then.
It was so funny because, you go through like your teen years or your 20s and your troubled times and your heartache, and sometimes you lose touch with yourself.
Yeah.
And it's been cool as I've like settled into being alive, I guess, and embracing all of the parts of myself. And then to find this year and read it and go, oh, like, yes, I'm back to who I was. Like all these certain things, you push away, or you like, oh, that'll have to wait till retirement. I'll do that someday. And no, and I changed my life around so I wouldn't have to wait. And then there it was as a 9-year-old, me saying it all.
I'm going to take a quick detour, and then I'm going to get right back here. What is the best, one of the your favorite thrift stores here in Northeast Ohio?
I like Volunteers of America in North Olmsted, and their half price everything Tuesday is coming up this coming Tuesday. So yeah, that's one of the best ones.
Yeah, and the reason I bring that up is because you're like, I like dressing up, right? And I mean, in your profile is like, these fancy hats and stuff that you find at Volunteers of America. And so, apropos.
Yes. Well, I see thrifting as a hobby. I rather than like going out to a fancy dinner or going to a movie, even if I took that money and just spent it thrifting, especially on half price days or with a coupon. And Value World's great too, because they have those 25-cent days. Yeah. So yeah, I love just treasure hunting, and still love dressing up.
Seeing what you find.
Mm-hmm.
All right, coming back. So, Artist's Way, which I love, and I spent some morning journaling for years. I just would fill it, and fill it, and I would go back and take a look at those journals, and I would grab a highlighter. I just kind of dump it. I'd grab a highlighter and go, oh, there's a common, and I would discover things about myself through that morning journaling that wasn't conscious. It wouldn't have come up had I not practiced the journaling and gone back and went through the highlights, and sometimes the lowlights. I'm like, I discovered some things I need to purge, through that as well. Is that something that you practice, or like, well, like, what do you do with all this writing? You got, how many books do you have?
Oh, it's around 97 now.
Around 97?
I might be 98. I'd have to count again, but yeah, so throughout the year, I'll look back and I have like sticky notes, and I'm glancing over here because there's a set of them on my desk, but they're like color coded, like, dreams are red sticky note, and, all these other things. And, so I've been coding them so it's easier to find things, because sometimes I am like, what was I dreaming about during this period of my life? And I can go back and see. And then same thing, I do with the highlight, where sometimes I've been doing, like, I'll go, oh, I wonder if this is what's really going on. And then I'll go back, later and go, yep, that's what was going on there. Or like, no, actually it was this. It's so fruitful though, because there's even patterns of, images that come up, or, did you ever write down your dreams? Yeah. Yeah. And then
my thesis was on, psychophysiology of dreaming.
That's so cool.
I know. So I believe in, and Beth and I got up the other morning, and I was like, we have a friend that we just had, I just had a dream of, and shared this vivid recollection. But no, I'm a dream, I wouldn't call it a dream journaler, but I'm certainly a dream rememberer.
I try to write them down because I'll have periods where I don't remember my dreams, but when I do, I try to write them down right away. And, it's amazing. Even just 2 weeks later, looking back, sometimes they don't make sense the day of, but looking back at them, they can be so illuminating and, can give you answers or insights. It's great. Yeah.
Before we leave the topic of journaling and Artist Way, I think that Tuesday at 7, that part of that was an influence from the Artist Way, which was the Artist's Date, which was spending, an hour every week, kind of focused on the creative self, or the artist self. And so that was, a bit of the origin behind, Tuesday 7, right? Gathering once a week at 7:00 on Tuesdays, mostly on Tuesdays. But the journaling took shape over the years to this book, and this is your first book, and well, you've written 97, maybe 98, but this is the first one that you've put out for consumption.
Yes.
How revealing was that? And tell us about the process.
It was about a year ago. I just felt like all this writing was piling up. I was deciding to make a big career transition, and I was just, it was funny. A friend of mine, about a year and a half ago, Steve, who's probably at dance right now, was hanging out with my kids and I for the air show. And he said, he asked the kids, he said, if you had to work, you had to do a job, but everybody was going to get the same amount of money no matter what job it was. So money didn't matter.
Right.
You were going to get enough to get by, but you had to pick a job and do it every day. What would your job be? And I was like, oh, that's such a cool question. So we went around and the four of them answered. And then they were like, what about you, Mom? And I was like, does it have to be a real job? And they're like, it's a pretend question. So when I answered, a big part of it was going outside every morning. And I said, I wanted to be like the keeper of the sky or the shore. I wanted to like walk down to the lake every day and just like take a note of what was happening there. And I wanted to have time to write every morning. I wanted to go someplace and help people. And I wanted to create art. And laying that out. Oh, and I wanted to cook good dinners with people I cared about, good healthy food. And that conversation was such a catalyst. And then, within 6 months, my whole life was starting to take a different shape. And now I'm having more and more days that are that. And so that was really like that conversation was kind of the catalyst for this. And then, so I was sitting last winter and I was like, I need to just do this. I need to put something out in the world so that it's not so scary to put something out in the world. And so this was a collection. I limited myself to poetry written between a certain window of time, just like 2 recent years. I was like, no digging back to all the old stuff. There's time for that. But yeah, so that's where we are.
Unlike waking, the world up to sunsets and or I should say sunrises, this is night walks.
Oh yeah, we like the
Are
night
you a
walks.
night walker?
I am a night walker.
Yeah. Why? What is it? What does it do?
Oh man, night is so magical. Well, where I live now, it's pretty quiet at night, except for the occasional trains. And so when I'm out at night, I feel like I'm like protecting and walking through everything, just like it's mine and I'm protecting it. And there's something about the quiet at night, like even in the cover picture, it was such like a thick, foggy night. And I was working on, I think something for grad school. I don't remember what I was working on. And I looked out the window and saw how foggy it was. I was like, oh, that's it. The work needs to wait. We have to go for a night walk. And that's where the title came from. I don't know, everything just transformed at night. Yeah. And I love that.
What I really enjoy about the book is it, if you have a healthy dish, right, or you're eating, there's a spice, there's a flavor, right? And when I read this, I certainly got the parenthood, the motherhood. I've got the observation. I've got like the naturalist. Those are the flavors that that I tasted while reading the book. And but the intro. Not the intro, but remember seeing here, this is to Mush, Sparkle, Jen, and Chimp. Please take the world and make it yours.
Yeah.
This is personal.
Yes.
Nicknames.
Yes.
And I love the fact that you're inspiring, loved ones, with this book and so happy. It is really, I know, a personal ask, and you could say no, but would it be appropriate to ask you to read a piece or so
Sure.
out of here for us?
I'll read a little bit of words.
And you were just reading at Max just this past Wednesday.
Yes.
I missed it by one day.
It's all right.
Let's forget this copy here,
which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And there should be more there. So if you need to get one, yeah, it went great. And I was very excited. I read some new poetry that is not in here and, some that I, I felt like they were pretty good, but I hadn't shared them yet. And it was cool and exciting to share them for the first time in a room full of people. And those went over really well. So that was really encouraging. I would like to read this one. It's very short. I love me a short poem. And I would like to just shout out one of my old friends and professors, Don, who loved this story. They're this little poem. So thank you, Don, for encouraging me and inspiring me. And I have to read this one because it makes me think of you now. The title is just Love Story, Geographical. And this is it. I've leaned on rivers, hoping they were mountains. That's the one. So that one's for you, Don. And since we're on the same page, I'll read this.
I love the short simplistics, like I'm going to punch you in the face with my idea. Like you don't have to surf through the words. You just distill it to meaning, instant meaning. Those grab at me. And when I was talking about a couple of my favorite ones, that was in the top like 3.
Oh, awesome!
That was in the top 3 because I love the fact and the geographic, love story, geographic, right? And can you read it one more time, please?
Sure. I've leaned on rivers, hoping they were mountains.
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay. Would you like to hear another one?
Yes.
In honor of January, it is called January. The hourglass tips again. I don't look forward to the falling of the grains. I shake the table and watch the glass tip over, one bulb, crack and shatter and spill. Moments across the table, like bone dust of a lifetime. You're closer, and in each there's a minute discovery in realization and moment, and there is sweetness. In the smell of shucked peas on my fingers, the buckling of my knees on the bare footfall on a sharp acorn.
Was it when you wrote that poem? Was there a lot of rewriting, or did it kind of spill with?
For some of them, there's a lot of tinkering. For some, less. So, like geographical, no, that was it.
That's it. Boom.
With this one, there was some tinkering, and even now, sometimes I read it and I'm like, I would change this a little bit. I'll change that.
Yeah. As a writing teacher at Tri-C,
yes.
What would you instruct your students, in terms of writing, or do you teach them poetry or metered writing?
Not in the classes that I teach right now. It's composition, but I love that because it's getting our ideas out and communicating our ideas, which is a great stepping stone, and vary the assignments. So like I was just reading today, they're writing about their call to adventure. So like the Joseph Campbell monomyth, and exploring just where we've had calls to adventure in our lives and what did we do with it. And so there's some creative elements to that, just seeing our lives as a story. But I think in terms of what I would tell my students, even for writing an essay, is looking for the story in it, and being personal, because now more than ever, our humanity is important.
If I know that there's some folks that write, they might write privately saying, I'm not ready to put it in a book and offer it out to others to read, or maybe really frightened, if I were to ask them, would you mind reading something, live on, on Facebook? The process of poetry is different than the process of typical writing, right? Because we're not, whenever I write, I often misspell words on purpose, right? Sometimes I'm creating words and there's spaces, and some of it's very intentional. Some of it is quite just, this is the way it dropped. And I just have to, maintain its imperfection. is that, have you been writing poetry for years? And how has the evolution?
It's evolved in a lot of ways. You know, when I was younger, it was a lot more, you know, rhyming and metered. And in college, of course, I'm like influenced by people like Lawrence Ferlinghetti and things like that. And then I don't know. Now my voice, you know, you're mentioning it's like afraid to put yourself out there. And well, I think when I was younger, I wanted to like, what was my style? And now you don't have to have a style. You don't have to have a genre of music that you create or a style of painting that you do. Like it can all be your style. And so I feel like so much more free. And I would say that one thing that I like to play with now is the process of just what I'm physically writing on, because different keyboard or handwriting or painting the words is all different. And there's a bunch of poems in here called office tomes. And during COVID, my partner at the time and I would go to an office that was just like an empty office that we had access to. And we both collected typewriters. So there were a lot of typewriters, like old typewriters. And we'd just go to this space to have a third space and give each other writing prompts and write poetry. So we'd both write on the same topic on the typewriter. But the physicality of, I mean, because so much of what we feel and what we think is expressed like in our embodied sense. And so the haptics and the movement of typing and like really making the words happen on paper is so different. And so composing even that way, which is a little bit slower and you're physically using force, it makes you create the words differently. One of the typewriters, even it hit so hard, it would poke little holes on like the serifs, of the letters. And so we'd like read it and we'd hold it up to the light and it looked like Braille almost. It was just, it was cool. But, you know, all the ways of writing are so different. And like even taking a piece of, you know, sandstone and writing on a stone at the side of a creek or something, it's different. And so like then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I'm a caveman leaving my mark, and it wakes up, I don't know, a different way of using language. So yeah, it's cool.
You find that there's a connection. I know that you also dance, right? And is there a connection to writing, typewriting, you know, the improv of dance and...
Oh yeah, everything. I mean, I do some improv comedy. I pop into like some of the play labs at Imposters, and all of it is, every way that we express ourselves is so physical. You know, humor is physical, dance, our feet. I mean, even in here, like we work with where are we feeling our emotions, and it is all connected. So like, you know, to write in a more physical way or to write by hand versus just typing on a little laptop. It all helps the words come out. Yeah.
I don't know if there's been any particular questions out there. We encourage you guys to raise those as well, or to feel free to make comments. I know that you have a presence on Facebook, but I think there's a good deal of business. Maybe I'm guessing, correct me, is Instagram a good place to find your work?
Instagram's a great place to find me. Yeah. And my handle is Walking in Awe, because that's what we do. Yeah. Everything's amazing.
Are you on other platforms as well?
I just started using TikTok like very recently, mostly so I could creep on my kids and make sure they're behaving themselves. But yeah, so I'm on TikTok as well as Helen Bednarz, and those are probably the best two places.
To keep an eye on what you're creating, right?
Yes, yeah.
Is there anything that that we've missed? You're like, you know what, I in 2020, 2024, 2025, 2026, are there things that that you've got in your vision where you're like, my vision wall, or, you know, my sticky note on my mirror is going to take me here? Anything like that?
It's funny you mentioned that, because people vision board.
Yeah.
I found a large sketchbook that I bought probably like 10 years ago that I was collaging, and is like a vision book. I was like, it's too much for one wall. And it's funny, like flipping through that and seeing what is happening now. Looking ahead, I've been involved with Quest for the Fest. They just had an event. It's a group of creatives in the Cleveland area, and we're putting our heads together to create something new. Quest for the Fest, the event that just happened was called Roots of Creativity. And it was about 100 creatives from all different disciplines in the Cleveland area that got together to collaborate and basically play for an entire evening.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so fun. We got divided into different little trios with people we'd never met before. So shout out to Sarah and Arturo, an artist and a composer. They are just like stuff that both of them said is still it's going to come out in poetry because they're incredible. And so we got into little trios and got to interact. And then we had bigger groups and we had assignments that, depending on the group, was like, we got to become characters. Some people were making sculptures. Some were doing things with the written word. And then we all shared and celebrated at the end. It was a magical evening of collaboration. And it just like blew my mind how much creativity and spirit and enthusiasm there is in Cleveland. And so I feel very energized by that, and went to a follow-up meeting just this weekend, and we're going to see what we create with it. So we're still in the like kind of vision boarding for the organization process. And so Juan is part of it from the Murray Hill Drawing Group, and who's connected to everything. The portrait.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Juan is great. Liz, Stormy, there's a bunch of people that are working to organize that. And I'm just so excited, whether as a participant or a volunteer, to be involved, bringing that to life, and just, again, connecting people and inviting more people to just create in community, because I think that's really powerful. And I got to be Hadley Evans, who was 7 years old from Texas, the whole evening, and it was so much fun. And it just, it was magical.
Yeah.
It was magical to just become with other people.
I know there's a lot of folks that will click in here and they'll be like, you know what, I'd love to awaken my creative self. Do you have any bit of advice? You know,
I would say, A, don't be afraid, and B, if you are a little bit afraid to awaken your creative self, make art that disappears. You can, like, I'm a big fan of chalk drawings, or, you know, going to the lake and just getting some stones or some driftwood and like making a shape with it. Yeah. Nothing that you create has to last, has to sell. No one has to see it. No one has to like it. And I mean, you could pile rocks, or, I mean, maybe you've seen in the woods or at the beach, people just like make those pyramids out of the sticks.
Yeah.
And it's cool. Like, it's cool.
Yeah.
And, we don't need to make art that like does something. I think sometimes people are like, well, they almost see it like it's capital A art. Like it has to land somewhere, and it doesn't. Yeah. And there's so much joy in just creating for the sake of creating and then walking away from it. Yeah. So I would say start there, because then it's purely for you, and there's no, it doesn't have to do anything. It's achieved its purpose just by existing.
Yeah, that is great advice. As we're kind of just rounding third, maybe getting ready to slide, you know, face head first into home. I want to remind folks, if you share next, your name will be put in a drawing, and you'll have the opportunity to win this signed book by Helen. And I know that you'll be inspired by reading this as well. But will you be up to finishing out our interview by reading another piece?
I will. I'd be happy to read one. This one was part of a writing assignment that I gave a few years ago when I was teaching college composition. And one of the texts that we read was about how technology can sometimes disrupt and sometimes enhance our sense of self. And the discussions in these classes are so amazing. I'm just so inspired by my students constantly. I love it. But we were talking about how difficult it is to explain what it is like to be us, to be the way that we experience the world. And so the assignment that night was to write either in prose or poetry or any form whatsoever. Lyrical dance would have been fine, although no one went for that one. What it's like to try to explain what it's like to be them. And I told them that I would do it too, because whenever there's like out there writing assignments, I said, it's only fair if I do it too. And then we shared them with each other in class. So this was my answer to my own writing assignment. So what is it like? It's like living in one of those forests from a fairy tale. Darkness, adventure, magic, and much and much and much. The rustle of a long skirt, soft earth, the pine bark, snail slime sparkling in the trickles of sunlight that filter through the trees. Smells like sequoia and the cinnamon mushroom smell of Thai jungles. It's crowded and silent. I am a knight. I am 1,000 knights, each on a separate quest. I am the woman in the castle. I have no hair to let down. I am the strong and steady stones of the tower. I ride. We ride. I watch them ride away. And in this forest there is the gentle magic, sunlight and stream, the distant smoke of a cottage hearth, the rumble of hooves. And it's like being both sides of the army and the wind. And instead of war, it becomes some strange howling dance and feels like no progress is made, but we're all exhausted. And time, a giant hourglass, looms big as the atmosphere above us all, like the dual moons in a galaxy far away. There's darkness and mystery, darting in skeptical eyes, the underside of a leaf. The hunter tracks a beast to slay it. Broken twigs, the soft depression of a footprint on soil. The beast weaves a flower wreath. I lie down on the bare ground and stare up at the sky. Smile, laugh at the nothing and everything, smile, and deep sigh. And when the beauty of it all hits me, the only thing to do is chest tremble and cry. To be alive on this earth, to be alive. There's chatter. A squirrel and bird. Sometimes there is so much chatter. There is leaf roar and chainsaw and talking and yelling and timber and thunderstorm and a million radio stations and 16 novels speaking all at the same time. Sometimes there is a numb silence and a thirsty tongue looking for words. A hush falls. One hand on piano keys plinks out a semi-familiar jazz melody. Blinds clatter and raise. Windows of the sky open. Another sunrise. I want to tell you. I look around, bathed in light and glory. Alone, mostly. Awash with the splendor of being alive. I know it's temporary. I kick at the edges of the sky, evaporate into spark and ash.
I know there's a lot of people who are going to wait for this recording to be put up, and they're going to grab their finger and they're going to drag it back and they're going to listen to it a second time and a third time, because there's one thing to read a poem. There's a whole different picture that exists when the poet reads it themselves, and we appreciate you gifting us with the treasures of your writing and with painting those word pictures and sharing your writing with us. And guys, we appreciate you joining us this Tuesday at 7. Remember, share, because if your name is drawn, well, you'll get you'll get a signed copy by Helen. And thank you for sharing with us tonight.
Yeah,
we'll keep an eye on your stuff and what you're doing. And again, the Instagram is
Walking in Awe.
Walking in Awe.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. And thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you next week.